Welcome to the EPG Pathshala. Myself is Dr. Thriti Ray. I am Assistant Professor in the Department of Museology, University of Calcutta. Today we will know about the Indian culture and all of you know about the museum. Today I will share you about the subject that deals about the museum, that is the museology. And today's module is module 7, that is on typology of museum. This is the part 1 of the module and the part 2 will be shared you later on. So in the part 1 module, we will know about what the museum is actually, mode of classification of museum and different types of museum. About the museum, you first know about what the museum is. As you know that a museum is a non-profit permanent institution in the service of society and its development open to public, which acquires, conserves, researches, communicates and exhibits the tangible and intangible heritage of humanity and its development for the purpose of education, study and enjoyment. In India, there are so many museums. So we need classification of museums to know museums in a better way. We classify museum today because of its varying enormously. They range in size from biggest international museum like Washington Smithsonian Institution to the smallest one-room village museum. Therefore, we need classification to understand the content of museum, to know the purpose of museum, to know about the status or importance of museum, to understand who run the museum and to understand the visitors of the museum. Based on all these facts, we classify museum based on its collection, who run the museum, the area they serve, visitors they serve, the way they exhibit their collection. So first of all, we will look into the classification on the basis of collection. Museum may be classified according to the nature and scope of their main collection. More than hundreds of such museums are in India now. Few of them like general multipurpose museums, history and archaeology museum, art museum, ethnology museum, natural history museum, industrial and technological museum, etc. General and multipurpose museum deals about all the objects like art objects, archaeological objects, natural history objects, zoological specimen, botanical specimen, etc. History and archaeological museums deal about all the historical artifacts. Art museum deals about the art and craft, folk art objects. Natural history museum deals about the natural history specimens like zoological object, botanical objects, etc. So we classify museum on the basis of collection. Secondly, we classify museum based on who run the museum. That is government museum, school, college, university museum, military or defense run museum, registered society museum, museum under board of trustees, museum under trust, temple museum, private museum, palace museum, museum under the industries, survey run museums, museum under National Council of Science museums. So let's look into the government run museum. First we will see the central government run museum. The Ministry of Culture and few other ministries of Government of India directly or indirectly financed and look after the administration of some museums. For example, National Museum, New Delhi, it is under the Ministry of Culture, Government of India. Secondly, many state governments, they run and administer museum. Like mainly these museums located at the capital cities of that state, like Government Museum in Chennai, Orissa State Museum, Assam State Museum, etc. Apart from that, many municipalities, they also run the museum and finance and administered some museums like Dr. Bhaudaji Lad Museum. This museum is administered and financed by the municipality of Greater Mumbai. Apart from this, there are many school, college and university museums. These are housed within that school or colleges or university. Being financed and administered by these institutions, they are specialized in character and intend to supplement course of study by providing pertinent example of their subject matter. Like Anatomy Museum of Jawaharlal Nehru Medical College, Pathology Museum of Calcutta Medical College, Ashutosh Museum of Indian Art. This is within the University of Calcutta. Like this. India has defense bodies like Army, Navy and Air Force. They also run some museums where they display their artifacts, their achievements, their weapons, like Jaisalmer War Museum. This is run by Army. Air Force Museum in Shillong, this is under the Air Force, like this. Apart from these, there are society museum. Most of the big museums of the past are product of the collective activities of same kind of or other intellectual or philanthropic society. These museums were promoted by the societies like Natural History Museum of Bombay Natural History Society. This is the society run museum. There are some museums which are under Board of Trustees. Here museums administered an incorporated body, in fact a subdivision of museum under the Board of Trustees, like the Salarjan Museum, Hyderabad and Indian Museum, Calcutta. They have been made institution or of national importance under Board of Trustees and thus have measure of autonomy. Number of museums are there which are run under the trust, like Gandhi Memorial Trust. They run number of museums across India, like Gandhi National Museum, National Gandhi Museum, New Delhi, Gandhi Smarak Sangrahalaya in Barakpur. These museums are run under this trust. Many temples are in India, they have their own museums attached with that temple. Number of museums are there which are in South India attached with the respective temples, like Sri Venkateswara Temple in Tirupati. There are many private organizations, many individuals are there, royal families are there and corporate society. They run their own museums to house their personal collection and possessions, like Raja Dinkar Kelkar Museum, Pune, Maharashtra. India has number of palaces. Many palaces in India, wholly or partly, are now converted into museum and open to public. These are called palace museum, like City Palace Museum in Jaipur, Umed Bhavan Museum in Jodhpur, like this. Some museums are there which are run under the respective industries, like Calico Textile Mill. They run their museum that is known as Calico Museum. This is in Ahmedabad. There have been cases also, museum developed purely by the industries. India has number of surveys, like Anthropological Survey of India, Botanical Survey of India, Geological Survey of India. All these surveys run museum in their regional centers, like Marine Museum of Geological Survey of India. This is located in Port Blair, and Anthropological Museums located in Shillong. Sarnath Museum is under the Archaeological Survey of India. Like this, there are so many museums which are under the respective surveys. Museums are also run by the National Council of Science. It is an autonomous organization under Ministry of Culture. This is the largest chain of science centers of museum. The need of science museum with elaborate equipment and instructive material both for specialized study and for popular enlightenment. For this, these kind of museum are established across India. We have national science centers, Nehru Science Centers in Mumbai, and we have two museums under this council, that is Birla Industrial Technological Museum in Kolkata. Wow. So in this way, we can classify museum based on the collection, based on who run the museum, so that in this way we can get an idea about the administrative procedures and the content of museum. It will give you the better understanding of a museum. And further, we will classify museum on the basis of the area they serve and so on. So if you look into the classification of museum based on the area they serve, you will get a different idea of a museum which are located in India. Like a museum, in this way museum can be classified like national museum, regional museum, state museum, district museum, rural museum and local museum. In case of national museum, it represents the culture and artistic growth of country for the earliest to the recent past, drawn from all parts of the country, carefully chosen example of high quality and stands as an introduction to the entire country. National museum give the overall view of a country on that subject to the visitor. The National Museum thus assume it a fully national role. For example, National Museum New Delhi, National Philatelic Museum, National Police Museum, these will give visitors an overall look about the nation on that particular subject area. Regional museums are also there in India. Those serve the region, that represent the region, particular region of India. These are commonly formed on natural history or physical science, like the Natural History Museum located in Bhubaneswar, in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, like this. These regional representation of museum focus on the regional achievements or regional collections on that particular subject. State museums are also there in respective states that are governed by the respective state government. These museums exist mainly in the capital cities of the respective state and represent the cultural, scientific achievement and the heritage of that particular states. Like Assam State Museum, it is located in Guwahati. Orissa State Museum located at Bhubaneswar, like this. It may be the general museum or on a particular subject. General museum like Orissa State Museum, or on a particular subject like the State Archaeological Museum, this is located in Kolkata. In this way, this museum can be further classified. There are some district museums like state museum. Many district has their district museum which are run by the respective state government and designated as district museum by that respective government. In India, frequency of district museum is more in northeastern state, especially in Arunachal Pradesh. These museums are basically anthropological museums that represent the cultural heritage of that particular district and the tribes of that particular district. One of such example is the district museum located in Bomdila, Arunachal Pradesh. And in this way, there are so many rural museums in India. Some museums in the name of rural museum are in India not necessarily located at the rural region. This may be located in the cities also. So to highlight the city people, what the rural life is, like the Sanskrit Museum, this is located at Mehrauli in New Delhi. So in this way, the subject wise representation and the regional and the location wise representation of museum give a better idea about the museum. There are so many local museum also. Local museum actually restricted and that focus on particular locality or the particular field only. Some local museum are in India that focuses the local issues, heritage and resources. There are some local museum which are under local panchayat, some corporate companies like Coal India Limited, private organization, tea gardens, coffee garden, etc. Like Coal Heritage Museum of Coal India, this is in Assam, Coffee Museum in Araku in Andhra Pradesh. So these museums generally focus on the regional aspect or the local the theme about the tea, theme about the on the coffee, like this. Beyond that, we can also classify museum based on the visitors they serve, because every museum deals with the visitors. So they have different categories of museum. So we also need to classify museum based on the visitors. We in this area we classify museum in three different parts. As one is general museum, one is educational museum, and another another category is specialized museum. In case of general museum, this museum is open to all, where we get the visitors irrespective of their age and their qualification, their need, all about that. And it deals with a wide range of subject area like Indian Museum, Kolkata, National Museum, Chhatrapati Shivaji Vastu Sangrahalaya. These are the general museum open to all, where all people, every category of people can visit. Other than this category, we have many educational museum. Various school, college, university museum fall under this category. They collect material of a wide range of subjects like history, science, medicine, etc. Many medical colleges, they have their own museum like pathology museum, anatomy museum, and many other departments have zoological museum, botanical museum. These are made for the specific student category. Other than these two categories, we have specialized museum. It can be divided again into two categories. One is for the specially challenged group, but unfortunately we don't have this kind of museum in India. We have many children museum because they are very rich visitors for any museum. So few children museum are situated in India. One of them is Shankar International Doll Museum. This is located in New Delhi. In other way, we can classify museum on the basis of the exhibit their collection, the process of exhibition. So we have a wide range of this kind of mode of exhibition. On the basis of that, we can again classify museum. This we can see as traditional museum, open air museum, historic house museum, period room museum, personalia museum, biographic museum, memorial museum, and virtual museum. We have a long list of this kind of museum. So in case of traditional museum, these museum are housed within a building either constructed for the purpose of the museum or housed in an old building and accommodate its exhibit and display as per the area given to that museum. They are commonly for the people and display in a conventional style, in a closed or in-house museum. In case of open air museum, sometimes object or part of monument excavated sites are displayed in situ, and whatever available in its original form is displayed. These are called the open air museum. Sometimes tribal habitat are recreated in its actual size dwelling house, depicting the source of livelihood and exhibit open air. Like Indira Gandhi National Rashtriya Manav Sangrahalaya is situated in Bhopal. There are so many historic house museums. These are the museums which house within the historic monuments like forts and palaces to retrospect the history of the site with real evidences. Like Mehrangarh Fort Museum, this is housed within the Mehrangarh Fort. There are period room museum, it represents a specific historical period only, restricted to the historical moment or the period of our Indian history. Sometimes museum depicts a particular historic period to the exhibit related object of that period, like the summer palace of Tipu Sultan. This is located in Mysore. Here we can get an idea of a period, the period in which Tipu Sultan lived and he stayed in that summer palace, the event that was held during that time. Personalia museums are there. These museums are built in the memory of the important personalities. Many personalia museums are established with the object of understanding his or her meaningful life in the building where the great person had spent his or her life. Like Rabindra Bharati Museum in Jorashako. This is also in Kolkata. Apart from the Personalia Museum, there are so many biographic museums. These museums are established on great personalities, their association with a set of people or the collection of an individual in a building may not be related with him or her but dedicated to him. Such museums are often named by the person, like the Gandhi Smarak Sangrahalaya Barakpur. Here this is built in the memory of Gandhiji and where the objects related Gandhiji are kept for display. Memorial museums are also built. This is the category of museum. In Kolkata, we have Victoria Memorial Museum. This is built in the memory of Queen Victoria, and this is also, it may be called as a period room museum. Virtual museum are also there. Now a good number of museums are constructed on web using information technology which has no relation with its real existence. They are called the virtual museum, like Monetary Museum of Reserve Bank of India. This museum is only available on net. There is no reality of the existing museum. Other than these museums, we have so many museums like organization, and we say this museum as a para-museum. ICOM has clearly defined that these museums, these organizations may be taken as or we may be granted as a museum, and we can also call them the museum but as in a para-museum form. So like this, we have many archaeological sites, monuments. They actually not here we also preserve the structure for the knowledge of people, and so we call these monuments museums. And there are so many geological garden, botanical garden where we can see the live specimens, and these are the collection for the common visitors, where common visitors can get knowledge about them. So we also considered zoological garden, vivaria, aquarium, botanical garden, these organization as museum, because ICOM has clearly defined them under this museum category. There are so many other exhibition galleries, like every cities we have good number of art galleries and studios of great artists. We also consider these galleries as a museum, because here we can see the rare object, and this gallery also organized several temporary exhibition where you can see and know about the creation, the masterpieces of various artists in national level or international level. And there are so many other organizations like the conservation laboratory, like the training centers, documentation centers, archives, where preservation of rare and antique object takes place. We also consider these as a para-museum. So, and other than this, we have national parks, sanctuaries. So here also we preserve animals or plants. So for as plants and animals are preserved here for the study and knowledge of the people, so we also considered these places a museum. So but these are not the true museum as like the in-house museum. We say the para-museum to all this category of museum. So almost totally we can divide or classify museum in this way, in a different aspect, categorizing them in a different level for the better understanding, the better functioning of a museum, for to get the actual picture what the museum is doing, what we can expect from this kind of museum, etc. So every day new museums are established across India on new themes, subject areas, adopting new technologies and preservation techniques. Even museums are now established having no real object or any object at all, and only based on the philosophy, technology, virtual reality, etc. Owing to the recent scientific and technological advancement, the nature and the scope of museum have expanded greatly. There are number of museums of pure and applied science or film may carry out its educational program by exhibiting the evolution of a particular branch of knowledge from its primitive stage to the most modern advances. So to understand the nature of museum, thus it is very essential to classify museum under the specific category to identify its type. So through this sharing, we came to know about the classification, various type of classification of museum based on the collection, who run the museum, the area they serve, visitors they serve, the way they exhibit their collection, etc. And if you want to know more about all this classification system, you please go through the books like Museum Basic, Museums of India, and then Directory of Museums in India, Museology, some cute points. These are the few basic books from in which you can get the idea about the classification, various system of classification of museum. And there are the entire text about this sharing, about this presentation. You can get it in the EPG Pathshala website, in where you can get the detail about all the classification system and all the importance and the necessary and all about this class. Thank you.